Final word, season 16, episode 36. It's me and him, and it's Brendon McCullum. He's going to do it again, Jeff. So the announcement that, again, we've got lucky 2 weeks in a row here with news, haven't we? I think something happened last week as we went to air. Well, I can tell you that the embargo has just come off this news, which is a moot point for when this goes public because we're a podcast. Brendon McCullum is the new England white ball coach. That doesn't mean he's leaving as red ball coach. He's going to do both, and they've extended the contract. He's going to do it out to the end of 2027. So that's, what do we got there? That's an away Ashes and a home Ashes. That's the sesquicentenary test match. That's multiple series against India. It is 2 World Test Championship cycles, so this one and the next one. It's the One-Day World Cup, which will be in early 27, if memory serves me correctly. There'll be another T20 World Cup before then. There'll be the Champions Trophy in Pakistan early next year, just after he takes over, with Trescothick doing it in an interim capacity until January. So a lot was made, Jeff, of them splitting the jobs up when he took over in 2022. They've done what they've described as a restructure, and after Ricky Ponting said he didn't want it, and Owen Morgan said he didn't want it, they're like, fuck it, let's just go with Baz. Thoughts?
I'm extremely tickled by this. Like, the first thing that came to my head when this news came through was, no, we can't stop for an England men's coach. We've got an England men's coach at home. You know, like, it just seems so bluntly pragmatic when their whole thing the first time around was, well, we've got to split them up. We've got to make sure that we've got to have the different departments, the different focus, the different kinds of skills, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this. We're going to be attacking. And then they've got this attacking white ball side, and then they go, Brendon McCullum, he's the guy. And then they try to get him in, and he says, no, I'll do the test job. And they go, oh, okay. And then their white ball side goes to shit completely for several years. And, well, I suppose they won the old what's he in 2022, was it? The one in Australia? Anyway, broadly speaking, things do not go well most of the time in the England white ball setup. The test setup seems to be having a great time, even though they're not at the top of the table. And then they're like, oh, why don't we have the same guy coach both the teams? Now, my understanding of it the first time around was that you don't want the same person coaching both the teams, because that's a lot of work. That's 3 teams. That's all the selection, all the trying to follow along the careers of 800 English players in T20 cricket around the world, all the rest of it. Too difficult, too draining. Let somebody have longevity. I'm just not sure that he's going to love it after a while. If he's got he's got 3 more years basically of just doing this full on all the time. Like you say, multiple Ashes, World Cups, all the rest of it. I'm not sure that's going to suit the general feet up on the railing, watch the racing on the iPad demeanour of Brendon McCullum. So it seems a practical... It's like we've had out of this England camp a bunch of times. They say things that completely contradict things that they've said not long beforehand. There is very little consistency in the messaging, and that is what I would question about this as well.
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit around to me, it's like, when you have an attacking coach, you end up going to a more defensive. In English football, it's when you have as they call over here, a foreign coach with the men's football team. They move to an England-born coach, and then they go kind of back and forth. It feels the same here, but 2 or 1. And there have been moments where there's been, well, wouldn't it make sense to have a more joined-up approach, having the same coach? Really, what this means is that Baz is going to have to live here. That's the main thing I take from this, because he doesn't really live in England, right? He does the fly-in, fly-out thing. So that will just change his lifestyle. And he would have to be at peace with being, on the road. What was that? Was it Buff that said to us years ago that he spends 310 days a year in a bed that's not his own? Well, that'll be, I guess, McCullum's lot in life. So that's the bigger commitment. I don't think it's a problem about workload necessarily. It's about how much do you want it? How much do you want to be in charge of all the teams? And I suppose he'd be thinking along the lines of, well, if he's doing the test team until 2027 anyway, it's a World Cup year, mentioned the home Ashes, the sesquicentenary thing, all the rest of it. Pretty exciting time. That might hint that Stokes will stick around until that leap-off point as well. They almost feel like they're bound together, those two, don't they? If Stokes' body is in good enough nick for him to go all the way through until 2027, albeit not so much in white ball cricket, but certainly in the test form of the game, that'd be a point of interest in all of this as well. So, they've talked about Bazball 2.0 this summer, and we're seeing a lot of that with who they're bringing through and so on. Well, I mean, might get a chance for version 3 and version 4 by the time you get to the end of that. There'll be a lot of turnover. We even saw this week with the England White ball teams, there's another, I can't remember who's retired from the England white ball. David Milan. David Milan retired formally from international cricket this week, and they went through and charted all of the guys from that 2019 England World Cup squad, and kind of like where are they now? And almost all of them are finished. Almost all of them are done. Doesn't feel like it's that long ago, but it does. Generations do turn over quite quickly, and so it'll be for this England Test team who have got them to a certain point. Obviously, they're desperate to do more. And they want to do things like win in Australia and have a chance in the next World Test Championship cycle if they can bowl their overs in a timely enough manner to not get docked points early on, which is what happened this time. It sounds like McCullum's got the appetite to go around all the way through. And if that is the case, then I guess that's not a bad thing. That's true commitment, right?
I just wonder whether it's going to compromise what he's been able to do with that Test side if he's got to do everything else as well, and whether that will start to sap the enjoyment of it and compromise that sort of vibe that they've got going on with the Test team at the moment. We don't have a squad, do we, yet for the England white ball stuff, because so they've got 3 T20s, 5 ODIs. Australia play 3 games against Scotland first, which got shoehorned in a bit late, which means that I'm not able to get there in time for those. But so they've had the T20 retirements, England, after that T20 World Cup when Moeen went and, I've forgotten now, a couple others pulled the pin at that point.
There was some turnover. Chris Jordan might have retired then, possibly from the T20 side. But they had a bit of volatility or a bit of turnover, as you'd expect at the end of a cycle. But they're back into one-day cricket mode. Like, there's more one-days than T20s in this little run-up for England, because they're looking at the Champions Trophy as a chance to regenerate, having had 2 bad World Cups in a row. And they'll be doing it under a new coach because, it was Mott who took them to 3 tournaments in quick succession.
Yeah, so Trescothick will do that handover bit. But so I'm not sure if that means that, say, Moeen Ali, for instance, is still available in 50-over cricket and has only retired from 20-over cricket, whereas David Milan has retired from all of it, with a fair bit of salt on the way out there the door. He wasn't he obviously wasn't happy with how he'd been treated through his England career, being so sporadically picked, which I can understand. He was always, like he said, he was always made to feel like he had more to prove than others, and I think sometimes our assessment of him was like that as well. The Cam Punsonby line about him being the stag do squad member, like, it actually felt like that was true at times. He would be the one brought in when someone else wasn't available, that kind of thing, and was rarely given the rein as the player who they thought was best for those for that role or those conditions, until that World Cup in India, where England had a terrible time and he went okay at the start and made that century early on, but tailed off pretty rapidly. So it was a complicated career.
Yeah, complicated is the right word for it. Remember, he didn't make his international debut till he was 29, so it was a different kind of skew in it all. He came in and played 1 T20, then he was straight into the Test team, and then went to Australia and made an Ashes 100 in Perth. Not many guys have made hundreds for England against Australia in the last 13 years or whatever it's been, since 10-11. 8 white ball hundreds, a couple of outstanding innings along the way. He was the number 1 ranked T20 batter in the world for a long stretch of time. So, I think a really good international career, which includes being a world champion in the T20 format of the game at the MCG back in 2022. Speaking of the T20 England team, it feels like Joss Buttler might be missing the Aussie stuff. He's redone his calf in preparation for Lancashire's quarterfinal in the Blast, which is tomorrow against Sussex. So Buttler, having missed 100 with a calf, hasn't played since the semi-final of the T20 World Cup. 2.5 months ago now, or something like that. So there's some speculation that he won't be there. If he weren't to be there, they haven't got a vice captain at the moment, so there's some chat that it might be Phil Saltz, but he'll be wicket keeping. So is that the right mix? I'm not sure. Sam Curran, his name's been thrown up as well by Matt Roller on Crick Info, so we'll be keeping an eye on that, whether Buttler can maybe get back for the second half of that when they start the 50-over stuff. Those quarterfinals, for what it's worth, the first of them's this evening. Surrey hosting Durham, then the aforementioned Sussex Lakes is tomorrow. Northants hosting Somerset, where they won't have Ravi Bopara, Jeff, because Ravi Bopara hurt his finger playing in the Cayman Islands T10 last week, I'm sorry to say. So
the Max Ravi, 60, I believe it's called.
No Ravi for Northants, where he's been playing this season. And the Birmingham Bears are hosting the Gloucestershire, whatever they call themselves these days. That will be at Warwickshire. Jeff, moving from, or you got anything to add on white ball stuff?
Let's skate away. No, I want to.
No.
I want to get to Pakistan, Bangladesh.
Please
because
do.
I was watching the closing stages of this in the middle of the night some days ago. I should not have been awake at that hour, but I was like, well, I'm just going to see what's going on here. It was actually the back end of the third innings when Bangladesh were trying to bowl out Pakistan. So Tigerland, we're all about it. We're all about singing the song. We're all about blowing the horns. They've had political upheaval and a complete overturn of government in what is hopefully an optimistic move towards the future for Bangladesh. And then they've only gone and done Pakistan twice in a row. Whitewashed them 2-0 away as well in Pakistan and beat them in absolutely ridiculous style after that first test match, coming back from 6 for 26 Bangladesh in their first innings and coming back to win that game. What a ridiculous performance.
What a victory. Yeah, back-to-back test at Pindi as well, where it's nearly impossible to get a result unless everything goes right. They get one here inside 3.5 playing days, I think it works out to be, and had never beaten Pakistan away from home. Beat them twice in 2 weeks, straight set series victory. I'll come back to the ramifications of that at the end of the segment.
I don't think they beat them in a test at home either, have they? I mean, they've beat them in
it was their first ever win. It could be. It could easily be their first ever win.
It's just off the top of my head. I can't. Right. I'm scanning through it. I can't remember Bangladesh beating Pakistan in a test match ever, but I might be right.
I mean, there was a bit going on before this started. I mentioned the rain on day one, but Shaheen Sharafridi was left out by Jason Gillespie. Dizzy saying he'd given some feedback to the speedster as they reconfigured their attack. Okay. So that gave Arborough the chance to come in the leg spinner, so they weren't going all quicks at Pindi.
I wonder if that gets Dizzy sacked in about 6 months. It seems like the kind of thing that can come back to bite, particularly a visiting coach.
I've got a
leaving out one of the star players.
Without jumping to the end here, I've got a dot point on my notes here saying Dizzy in strife here pretty quickly. Much as that hurts to say, there will be repercussions for Shaheen. That's my guess based on what we know about the volatility of Pakistan cricket at the moment. But yeah, Mir Hamza and Karim Shahzad, who we saw in Australia, along with Muhammad Ali, they were the three seamers. And Pakistan batted first and got 274 on day one. A perfectly acceptable score, but when you dig a bit deeper, 3 of them got to 50 and none of them got to 60, and that's where they lost the test match. Mehedi Hassan, 5 for 61, and Tashkin Ahmed, 3 for 2 final word favourites, taking 8 of the 10. Fucking love them. And speaking of Mehedi, I mean, when they were 6 for 26 with Shahzad running through them, who walks in at number 8? It's Mehedi again, having made runs last week. Gets 78. Lytton Das, the wicketkeeper, gets 138. One of the great back against the wall hundreds that must have been, although I didn't see any of that innings. It's been written up as an all-timer. And just on Mehedi, by the way, I know I talk him up all the time, but he's averaging 58 with the bat in Test cricket this year in 4 matches, including 100 and a couple of other 50s, and he's taken 15 wickets at 29 with the ball. So when we're doing our end-of-year Test teams, don't forget Mehedi Hassan, Bangladesh. Then they, second time around, so they have a small first innings deficit. Then just as it was last week, Jeff, they roll Pakistan in the second dig. They get them... They make early inroads and bowl them out for 172. Rizwan and Salman Agha get to 40-odd, but nothing else.
And poor old Salman Agha, again, I mean, this bloke, we saw it kept on happening through the Australian summer as well. He's just there. This is the bit that I was watching towards the end when he's just there with the tail going, fucking hell. Somebody hang on. Somebody bat with me. Let me make something. He got 47 not, I think. And it could have been. I mean, their score could have been precipitously less. So there were points as he was doing his best towards the back end where he was at least setting Bangladesh something, and so he was the difference between it being a walkover and being a challenge. When Bangladesh walk out in that 4th innings, they've at least got a semi-substantial target to chase, and Pakistan are a chance to win the game. They're only a chance to win the game because of Salman, and he just has this like brawler spirit. I love it. I admire the way he plays so much. He doesn't care. He doesn't give up. He doesn't care what's coming at him. He tries. And he wasn't able to get him this win, but I think he's got to get respect for how he tried to turn it around.
Doesn't bowl enough either. I think he's a far better bowler than the overs he's getting for Pakistan. Anyway, that's a question for another day. The great news for Bangladesh with the ball, it was 2 young blokes that bowled out Pakistan, and it wasn't their spinners. This wasn't, the Shakiba Mehedi show on a Bunsen. Far from it. I mean, you've got 21-year-old Nahid Rana in his third test match taking 4 for 44, and he's quick. Saw the highlights of that innings. He's sharp. And then Hassan Mahmood also playing his third test. Not quite as sharp, but moves it around more in the air by the looks of things, taking 5 for 43. So two guys who have got 6 caps between them, taking 9 of Pakistan's second innings wickets and, leaving them 185 for victory. And they did get to 42 for none overnight. And that's when I sort of plugged in with this. I was quite busy yesterday working on another project. Didn't have a chance to watch any of play, but I certainly did this morning when I woke up. I had it on as well. And, it felt like there was going to be that wobble, Jeff, and they lose their openers on 58 and 70. And then when the captain Shanto gets caught at short leg for 38, I'm like, it's not like I've seen this one before, but I've got that vibe from Bangladesh that this could be 7 or 8 down quite quickly. Remember when they nearly beat India on Christmas Day a couple of years ago? It was in similar circumstances to this when Ashwin got on top of them and monstered them when the game was in the balance. Well, this time, Mominul Haq makes a really important 34. Now, he does have a brain explosion with 32 to go and hits one in the air and gets caught at mid-off. But even at that point, it's Shakib. Now, I don't want to get into the politics of what's going on in Bangladesh. We're not, despite our conversations with Muhammad Hassan, we are not authorities on what's going on over there. But as a former member of parliament, for all the drama over there, all the different, the bits that will relate to his family and his businesses and so on, he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders right now. And he's walked out there and made an unbeaten 21. He's done it appropriately so with Mushfiqur Rahim, who's made 22 not out, the 2 old stages of that team, seeing them through for the last 32 runs together to win eventually by 6 wickets. And, you want to zoom out, Jeff. Bangladesh have now won in 144 test matches since they got full member status at the turn of the century. That's just their 21st win. 21 wins in 24 years and only their 8th win away from home in 67 attempts. And, because they've done this away, whisper it, the World Test Championship just opens up a little bit for them in this cycle. They've only played 6 matches. Let me run you through the sums here. They've played 6 matches, and they're just under 46%, right? Pakistan, by the way, are cooked with 19%. That puts Bangladesh in 4th spot with 6 matches to play. They're ahead of England, by the way, by 1 percentage point, acknowledging that England's percentage is skew because of that massive points deduction they got because of their bad over rate during last year's Ashes, and fair enough in my opinion. But anyway, Bangladesh from here have got 6 tests to go. Yep, they're playing 2 of them in India in September. That ain't easy. They go there later in the month, and India will be raging hot favourites to win both of them. But what if Bangladesh do, steal one? If they go 50-50 there, it's the benefit of only playing 2 test series if you're a smaller nation is that you can...
Half the points. One upset, half the points.
Yeah, that's right. You're 1 upset away from keeping your percentage in check. Then they play South Africa for 2 test matches at home. I reckon they'll beat them. Just got a feeling about this team. And then they have the Windies away in Bangladesh in October. Then in November into December, they finish their cycles. It's all in a hurry. They've got 4 series in 4 months, right? November, December, they play the Windies away from home, who are far from strong. So with a bit of belief, if they keep their percentage, with a 5 in front of it, a high 5, if they got on a bit of a roll, maybe even a 6, that might be enough. Because if India and Australia take points away from each other in the Border Gavaskar series, so they had a 2-all or something like that. Look, put it this way. As you like to say at this time of year in footy season, their destiny is in their own hands, and that is not for nothing for Bangladesh. They've never been in a situation like this before, that's for sure.
I love it. Four series in 4 months. We can turn them into a lean, mean winning machine. We will, Mighty Duckstar, we'll get them on the rollerblades. We'll get them blading through the shopping centre. We'll have Mushy Rahim out at the front. 37, dodgy knees, all the rest of it, but he's still going to rollerblade down the escalators. Shakib will be coming down after him, thinking that this is not the most precipitous drop that he's had in the last few months. It's going to be like, they're going to pull together, they're going to band together. Goldberg's going to figure it out, and they're going to work out how they're going to make it happen. They're going to make it happen. I can see it. They're going to surge into the World Test Championship final, and then get pancaked by whoever else makes it. But anyway, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see them there. And I love to see their top order turning it around. Just that contrast, first innings, top 6, 10, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2. And then in that chase, their top 6 all made 20 plus and made sure that it wasn't really nervous at any particular point. So hell of a win, hell of a team. Go Tigers.
Fuck yeah, Tiger time. Just on WTC stuff, we've had it confirmed today by MCC and by ICC that it is going to be at Lords. I mean, we knew this, but it's been confirmed as Lords for the final next year, the 11th
Finally.
till the 15th of
But
June.
after the false starts, 2 false starts so far, it'll be at Lords. I mean, Southampton. It'll be at Lords. I mean, the Oval. It'll be at Lords. I mean, Wantage Road. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, it'll be good.
It'll
I'm
be,
glad
it'll
it
be
is at
underwater at Worcester. Yeah.
I'm glad it's going to be at Lords because, yeah, you're right. They've had 2 failed attempts, one for commercial reasons and one due to the pandemic. So that will be starting the Test summer over here. And just on Test cricket more widely, we are back in that world after Sri Lanka got beaten. Well, they're down 2-0, one more Test to go, where the conversation over here, Michael Vaughan has been talking about it, but he's not the only one, about 2 divisions of Test cricket. And just wanted to provide a little bit of context around this. If you come from the perspective that we're moving towards a 6-team World Test Championship anyway, if you accept that this is not going to end well for people like you and me who want to see the WTC grow, that it's more likely to recede. If you're of that school of thought that there is an inevitability about all of this, then I would say 2 divisions of the WTC with maybe promotion relegation for one team is a darn sight better than 6 teams barely playing anymore, or like it is with Ireland, Zimbabwe, and Afghanistan playing ad hoc Test matches with no real oomph to them. So I get the criticism of what Vaughan has said there yesterday, but I'm also feeling a slight pragmatic pang as well. Like, I don't want to see a world where Test cricket only becomes 6 nations. So if that's a way of keeping teams playing Test cricket who don't have the resourcing to play it, or rather who will be squeezed out by the new administration, Jay Shah. He's got 3 years in the top job where he'll be formally running world cricket. We spoke about the ICC machinations last week, and there's been more chat around that Test match fund this week. But Johnny Graves was on TalkSport saying, yeah, $15 million, yeah, good luck, pull the other one. That's not going to do fucking anything. That's not going to touch the sides of the problem. And I think we've got to listen to administrators who are leaving the job like him to pay attention to just how difficult the situation is. But countries like Bangladesh and New Zealand and Sri Lanka and others, many others, the Windies, who are South Africa, who have been finding it difficult to finance their Test cricket. If it comes to 2 divisions or nothing, I'm going to take box A. I don't want that. I don't want that. It's like 4-day Test cricket. I don't want it. But if there's a way of taking if there's a way of using it to the advantage of Test cricket somehow in this shake-up of scheduling and this realignment of capital through India, then, well, I guess it's something we need to talk about and think about.
It's interesting, isn't it? You look at it in the context through the prism, if you will, of Rashid Khan this last week being told, ostensibly his medical advice is he shouldn't play Test cricket, but he can still play T20 cricket, and so he's played a couple of leagues. He'll play. He's not playing the Big Bash again, which is interesting because he was pretty strident in being critical of Australia not playing Afghanistan, but he will play the SA20, things like that. Where if you're talking about, say, that Test match fund needs to fund match fees for Test matches that make them enticing to play, because you've got players who are potentially risking a payday in a T20 league by doing something like what Rashid Khan did a few years ago, where he bowled bloody 90 overs in a Test match.
He bowled 100 in a Test, didn't he? It was
something
Sonny
like that.
Style,
He bowled more than he'd bowled in entire Big Bash League seasons in one Test match at that point. So if you're doing that as a bowler, especially, you're taking a physical risk. You're taking a risk with your body that you then break down. You miss 6 months of cricket or whatever it is, and so you forego a bunch of other earning potential. So there are all of these things to consider. But a Test match fund has to be significant enough that it's actually going to be able to defray all these kind of resources. So the 15 million thing that they're talking about, well, I mean, that might do a couple of series. But in terms of getting grounds ready and available for 5 days apiece, playing multiple series in a match, having all of the staff that people need to pay, getting teams touring, accommodation, I mean, it's a vastly expensive business, and that this is the issue with Test cricket. So I don't know whether whittling it down to 6 teams just seems self-defeating. it just seems like you're agreeing that it's going to be less and less relevant, and it becomes a curio. It becomes something that sits in a cabinet at a museum for people to come along. It'll be like one of those fucking reenactments of the Civil War reenactments in America or something, or a bunch of weirdos put on their tricorn hats and go out to remember what a good time it was when they were defending slavery. It's just it becomes a relic, and it needs to be alive. It needs to be of the time that it's in to actually work. So, I like you said, our worldview, you and me, it's completely opposed to this. Really, I want to see more possibility for countries and teams to play Test cricket. I want to see matchups that have never happened before. I want to see Steve Smith and Joe Root not playing 60% of their Test matches against two other teams. There is a whole world out there, and we're just not seeing it.
Yeah, can't disagree with any of that. I hope that the commitment to Test cricket and the World Test Championship only expands. But yeah, I mean, the cat was belled last year, right, when Ravi Shastri, who I have a huge regard for, colleague and pal over the years, he said it explicitly on television here last year. He's like, Test cricket will be Six Nations in the World Test Championship, and I think it's reasonable to assume that if Ravi's saying it with that level of authority,
other people are saying
it's probably exactly what's going to happen. So it's worth. Gideon wrote a very strong piece on this in relation to Jay Shah taking over, and it was probably more along the money side of things that it is a reminder of this extraordinary wealth that's been generated by the game. The game is not poor. The game is not unable to fund itself. It's a decision being taken to ensure that there is a distribution of wealth that makes the rich richer and the poor can suit themselves. And that's where we need leadership at the top table. We'll see whether we can get it.